Have you guys heard about this thing in the headlines concerning real estate agents and commission and all the noise out there about these two things? Well, I want to weigh in on that. I want to actually tell a little story about that today. Our content is talking about zero down payment housing in North Dakota. Excited to explain how that actually works because some of us have heard of it. And then I can't wait for our last segment, things that have greatly improved my life. I have a little tool for you that I think could be impactful. This is the Midwest Invest Report. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Midwest Invest Report. You guys know me. I'm Kyle Reedstrom, your host. You guys, we bring you this content because we want you to know about your market. And you guys, if you like this content, definitely go back and check out some of our other episodes. We've got our YouTube channel. We've got our episodes on any podcast app or system you use to listen to podcasts. Check out those other episodes. We've got some really cool content going on. Definitely like this video, subscribe to our channel if you go on there. But what I really want is for you to join our subscriber list for our newsletter. Guys, that's hitting inboxes of our subscribers every Monday. Super excited about what we're bringing to that newsletter. Obviously, things about our market, things about real estate strategy, home info. Last week, I shared my top 3 real estate books that have been a game changer for me, plus a little bonus. Guys, so definitely check out our newsletter, the Midwest Invest Report newsletter. Guys, we have the link below if you want to be on that list. Join our subscriber list. We'd love to have you. Let's get into today's Market Minute. I want to share a little story with you, and I want to stay high level because you guys have heard about the National Association of Real Estate Agents, Realtors, the lawsuit, all this talk about commission. You guys, essentially what it boils down to is it's a conversation around the sellers not having the burden of paying the buyer agent commission. And that's been a kind of a standard in the real estate market ever since I've been in it, for sure. You guys, the first thing I want to say is this has never been a requirement. Just like it's never been a requirement for you to work with a real estate agent, it's never been a requirement for you to pay the real estate agent fees. This is a business transaction, just the same as I pay $3, $4, $6 for a hot dog downtown. It's the same service real estate agents provide, is helping you buy, helping you sell, helping you build, helping you invest in real estate. And there's fees that come along with that. Now, traditionally, as part of the selling side, and I work with a lot of sellers at this point in my career. That's one of my main duties with Midwest Invest Realty Group, brokered by Real, our team here in Fargo. I work with a lot of sellers, and offering commission to a buyer broker, aka buyer agent, is a major strategy for us to get as much attraction on a property as possible. And the story I want to share with you comes from one of my friends that's a real estate agent in Wisconsin. He runs a team out there. He's been very successful, he's prominent in his own market, and he had one of his clients go the other direction, kind of because of this lawsuit, but essentially they decided not to offer any buyer agent commission on their listing. In fact, I think they did offer like $500 buyer agent commission for that brokerage to bring their buyers that they're representing to check out that listing. What happened was that listing didn't get attention. It didn't get showings. It didn't get views. It sat on the market for 30 days, sat on the market for 60 days. They didn't drop price necessarily on this example. Generally, we'd start to see that. And the end of the story is it didn't sell. And the reason my friend was telling me about this is because they ended up calling him saying, hey, we really need to get our property sold. We want to get this on the market. And they ended up going the route of more traditional, let's offer some compensation for a buyer agent. What are your fees? My friend's listing fees. They had that discussion and did a more traditional style listing. But I want to touch on that, you guys. The reason why we want to offer compensation to any broker or agent that represents buyers in our market is solely to try and get as much attention on a property as possible. Okay, it's a huge strategy for us when we're selling a property. We want to put it out huge net to as many people to try to cross the paths of the people that have the exact criteria of the house we're selling. And the realism of this is when a property sits on the market, it ends up being huge swings against the seller's out-of-pocket proceeds, that what they're going to make on this property. Perfect example, if you had a listing in West Fargo and it was listed for $400,000 and we were able to drive traffic to it with our different marketing strategies, ad spends, and then obviously offering and working in cooperation with every other broker and every other real estate agent in our area and beyond. If that ends up not selling in those first 10 to 14 days, we always say, like, everybody that's looking for your property that's in the market right now will usually see it in those first 2 weeks. And if not, definitely those 3 weeks. And if it starts sitting on the market, we always say that it's either something's wrong with the house, something's wrong with the marketing, or something's weird with the market. And generally, our market's pretty stable in Fargo. And so when we look at that, is the house okay? Well, what are we doing with marketing? And sometimes if those days on market creep up, you guys, that's when a property is going to sit. And we always say, if the house isn't selling, it's usually one of 3 things. There's either something wrong with the house specifically. It's getting attention, but some people like something about the house. Something wrong with the marketing that's happening, whether it's, the ad spends, the marketing dollars being spent over here, or the cooperation with the broker, other brokers in town, which is kind of that lawsuit piece, or it's the price, right? A property that's not priced correctly will not sell, right? If that we listed that $400,000 house for $600,000, it wouldn't sell as well. And so what happens is these big swings happen with properties that sit on market. And I just fear that sellers that are going to play around with this lawsuit or take a stab at this, and I realize this could be a polarizing statement, they have the risk of not getting a massive amount of attraction, lowering the number of views, lowering the number of saves, lowering the number of showings. And eventually, do they get an offer or not? And if they're not, usually if there's nothing wrong with the house, that price is going to move. 400,000, we'll see 5%-ish swings in the price selling, sometimes greater, but 5% on a $400,000 house is $20,000. A house that could have sold for 400 or close is now selling for 475, 480. That's a big, expensive mistake if not done correctly. And so I just have a lot of, I love capitalism. I love the way that this lawsuit is going to challenge real estate agents and consumers to be better and communicate even better. But I also would hate to see the negative impact of properties that aren't selling for maybe what they could with the channels that have worked really well for real estate agents that I've trained behind and been mentored by. The reason we do it the way we do it is because generally it creates the result that our consumers want, our sellers want. And so you guys, I just wanted to tell that story. I wanted to give a little example. It's a crazy world out there with this lawsuit and then different opinions from the media and locally. I felt like I had a need to expose it for our audience specifically. So, because a lot of you might trust me for some of this information. So wanted to give my 2 cents. I hope that helped. I hope that helped give some perspective. Maybe there's some disagreement or agreement in different things, but let's continue to have the conversation. If you want, I would love to hear a comment below if you have your 2 cents. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you agree with some of the stuff I said. Maybe you have your own point of view. But I think it's a great thing just to talk about it in a healthy way. So I'd welcome you to leave a comment. All right, let's switch into our content for today. I want to talk to you guys about 0 down payment to get into a house in North Dakota. Now, there's a program for this in Minnesota too. I'm going to focus on the North Dakota one just because I have some stats and some things pulled up from North Dakota. But you guys, there are these amazing programs for first-time buyers, yes, but not. You don't even have to be first-time buyer on some of these. for you to get state down payment assistance or closing cost assistance on a purchase of a home if you qualify. What we're going to talk about is usually it's an income requirement. But I want to break the glass first because a lot of you might not have heard of this before. Wait, I can have zero down payment to buy a house? A lot of people, they think that you have to have 20% down. Not true. Generally, 3 to 5% is like the minimum right in there. And that's without any assistance. But this is using a loan where you have to put 3% down. And then the state covers up to 3% of your down payment. So they cover essentially your whole down payment. And it's an assistance program that's eventually forgiven over time. So I want to run through an example. But first, you guys, if you're ever curious about this, I want you to go to ndhfa.org. This is the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency website. This will have your stats that I'm going to be pulling from today for today's episode. You guys, they have some cool programs. And here's the thing I also want to say with this. Your lender that you're working with, most lenders are qualified and signed up for this program. So they can facilitate a loan through this program for you as your lender. And so you just have to ask your lender. If you're working with a lender that you know, like, and trust, ask them about the North Dakota Housing Assistance Programs and if you qualify. Now, I might be able to answer some of those questions here. Now, the one that I'm going to talk about is on the right side of the page if you're watching. Okay, if you can see my page now, I went to the North Dakota Housing Finance Agency's website. I'm on the right side here. We're talking down payment assistance and closing cost assistance through the DCA program. North Dakota Housing Finance Agency provides low-income buyers with affordable mortgage loans that includes down payment and closing cost assistance. Amount of assistance equals 3% of the first mortgage loan amount in the form of a credit towards your out-of-pocket cash requirement. This can be used for down payment, closing costs, or prepaid items. Okay, and then there's this income limit. I want to get into that, but before I want to highlight this one piece right here. Only 1 to 2 unit properties. So all you house hackers out there, if you're listening right now and you're thinking about doing I want to buy a duplex and rent it out to a tenant and live in one side, you can do the down payment assistance program for that type of purchase as well. So that's pretty exciting. I want to get into the income limits. For the DCA income limits, you'll see here Cass County, and it goes by family size. So if you are a single person, the income max, the most you can make, right? They want, if your income falls below this number of 58,300, you can qualify for the down payment assistance program. If you're a family size of 2, you're married, 66,650 is got to be your family income. Okay, it's got to be below that. If you're a family of 3, it's 75,000 up. You guys can see the screen. You can check these numbers out on the website, but that's the one catch with this, you guys. You need your income to fall below these numbers in order to qualify. All right. The other thing that I want to express with this down payment assistance program is the way that this becomes a freebie for you is this is an 8-year loan that the state is giving you, and each year a little bit of that loan is forgiven until it's zero. So if you live in the property for 8 years, your entire assistance loan is forgiven by the state. This is a really beneficial thing for the state to help people get into affordable housing and get into housing instead of renting, which is good for the state. Also, it's really good for you from a standpoint of low down up front, build equity in the home over time. That's the goal. That's why this is a win-win. So the way that loan comes to you is it's actually, you have your first mortgage with your bank, and then you have a second mortgage that needs to get paid off with the state. And again, that's forgiven over time. Okay. So the example, this is going to be relevant. I hope this helps. I want to give an example of how this has worked for my clients in the past, because we see this all the time. Really, it's really cool to see this happen where somebody goes through the process and gets qualified for this and actually doesn't have a major down payment burden at closing when they buy a house. So let's use a $200,000 property. I have a client. Let's call my client Ben. Ben decides to go to the bank and say, hey, I would like to buy a house. His income is around $52,000, so he qualifies in Cass County for this. And the lender says, hey, Ben, generally you'd need 3% down payment for a conventional loan. That's going to be about $6,000. Closing costs are going to be in that 1 to 2% range. So closing costs are going to be around, let's go with $5,000 in closing costs to have the loan, to get the loan paid for. That's the closing cost aspect from the lender when you get a loan. But down payment is going to be about $6,000. And the lender says, hey, your income is below the limit. We can get you qualified for North Dakota loan assistance, the down payment and closing cost assistance. They apply, they get it. So now Ben does not have the burden of that down payment anymore. He's qualified for this loan program. Awesome. Okay, still likes this $200,000 house. It turns out when we put in the offer, we were able to offer the sellers $202,000, but they'll pay $5,000 in closing costs for us. So that's the $5,000 that he owes the bank when they close to get all the loan done and everything. So we gave them a little more on the purchase price, a little over what they were asking, but we're going to ask them to give us a credit at closing for $5,000. So he doesn't have that out of pocket cost either. That's about $197,000 net to the seller. They said, okay, we asked $197,000 net. We'll accept that. So now we're in a situation where Ben got an accepted offer on a house. His down payment is assisted from the state. Closing costs are paid by the seller. And now because we're offering and we got an accepted offer, we do have to write an earnest money check to make the contract ratified. So he'll write $1,000. We wrote into the offer $1,000 earnest money. He'll write $1,000 checks for the check for the sellers to hold and the seller's agent to hold during the course of the transaction. But that always goes towards his down payment, right? So that's going to be out of his checking account, but eventually that gets applied to his overall costs at the end. So fast forward, he has to pay for an inspection to get the property inspected. That's always a good idea. The property gets appraised. That's part of the closing cost from the lender. So that's already paid for by the seller. Then closing day comes and Ben shows up to closing. He says, what do I need to bring to closing? And they say, you don't need to bring any money. You just need to bring your ID. And actually, Ben, we're going to give you a check back for most of your earnest money. There might be some fees that were taken out, right? But we actually have a check for $870, which is a large portion of your earnest money because that's been held in deposit, and now you get that back, and your amount due at the end is down payment assistance and closing costs were taken care of. So there's really not a balance for you. So you're actually getting money back at closing. It's a really unique concept. A lot of people need the explanation. I got a question about this recently, and so I wanted to address it on the show. But this is how you get into zero down payment real estate. And I mean, I love the stories of investors, young investors that want to build a portfolio that buy their first house this way, live in it for a number of years. And then once that loan starts to be forgiven, they move out of it and they buy another property and keep that one as an investment. Because we all know as real estate investors, getting into real estate property with zero down payment is literally a dream, because most of our risk is tied up in the amount of money we put into these properties. And if the amount of money is zero, that really mitigates a lot of risk for you as a real estate investor. You guys, this is an awesome option for people out there, and I want you to know more about it. So I wanted to bring it as the meat of the show today. If you're curious or you know somebody that this could impact in their first house or second house, or somebody that might fit in those income requirements based on family size, definitely you can reach out to people like us. We're very familiar with it. Your lender should know a lot about it, because this is an amazing option for people to get into housing this year and beyond. All right, I want to share a tool that's improved my life. You guys, this is a segment of the show that I love because I think having tools that are improving the quality, hacking life a little bit for us, are awesome. Guys, the one I want to share with you today is called Marco Polo. I'm sure a lot of you know the game that you played as a kid called Marco Polo. But this is an app, and it's been described to me like Snapchat for adults or Snapchat for business people, but it can go beyond business, right? So Marco Polo is just a simple video app. It's like sending a text message, but it's video, right? So that's why they call it, the Snapchat piece there. But the way that I've been using it in my life has been really impactful for me, because this is all too often when we're on business teams and we're working and family members are working in other areas, or even when my wife's at home with the kids and we want to interact, it's usually via message, maybe even phone call, but we lose a little bit of the human aspect when I can't see their faces or listen to see the expressions being made or what activities happening. And so, you guys, this has been a really cool way for us to be in different locations, but really to get into what's happening in each other's lives in video form. So a really cool way I use Marco Polo is every day around noon. I like to Marco Polo a lot of our team members and check in. Maybe I'll say something dumb like a joke, or maybe I'll just check in on how their day's going, or maybe ask a question. And then generally my wife and I will share a couple Marco Polos in the middle of the day just to get an update on how the day's going. She can see my environment. I can express thoughts, and she can share maybe a quick video with what the kids are doing or whatever. Guys, I think it just brings the level of communication up in any relationship. I think communication is probably one of the biggest areas of frustration and clarity that we need to focus on as business people, husbands, wives, friends. That's the other thing. It's really fun. I have a group Marco Polo with some of my best friends that are in different locations, and we're able to see each other's faces and interact at a higher level. So Marco Polo, check it out. It's definitely improved my life because I like seeing faces and hearing little quips. Maybe it can improve yours too. That's our life hack for today. All right, guys, that's a wrap. We're going to end the show just saying, hey, if you're not a subscriber on our newsletter, you know the gig. Check out the links below. If you like this video, if you liked this content, definitely subscribe to our channel, but also send this to a friend. Maybe somebody's really could use the information about zero down payment for their next house in North Dakota, as we would love to engage with them. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, comments on our Market Minute. Guys, this has been the Midwest Invest Report. I can't wait to see you